All right, we're going to start our last session of the day. And actually, this is the last live training day we're planning on doing. That may change depending on a lot of things. But this last section is called Communicating with Customers, Printing, Emailing, Texting, Calling, and so forth. So there's been a lot of changes. I would say improvements, some may say not, to the way you can print, email, text, and call inside of our new user interface, which we call the Office Upgrade. And I'm going to go through and show you how some of those things work. I hope you all have enjoyed the training so far, and I hope it's been very good for you. I hope you're starting to learn it and seeing the great potential that it has to offer you and your company. So we're going to start with printing on this, and there's a lot of different places that we can do printing. We're primarily looking at communication with customers, so I'm only going to briefly touch on the delivery planner here, but the delivery planner is one of the ways. Now you're going to see this and it's going to look really, right, what's wrong with this? It doesn't look right. We have not migrated the delivery planner over completely. We're using still the old one, but we are planning on, we're actually in the process of writing a new one. So it's going to fix a lot of the issues that you guys have brought up with the old one, and we're hoping to release that before the season starts, hopefully as soon as possible. So here's an example of a route I've planned. If you're not using this for routing, you should consider it. It's very convenient. It's makes your routing a lot simpler, and it also makes your printing a lot simpler. So when I click the print, my routes for a certain day, it's going to put those under the different vehicles that I have. So we have the van down here, the box truck up here. It's going to collate these documents, and I can turn on whatever I want here. If I want to print all these different documents, when I turn them on, they just start showing up down here. You don't realize it, but they just start showing up, and then you can print those. Now, one of the things that's been a problem with printing is that templates, these documents have styles in them, and those styles, when we load them in, end up affecting other things. You can see up here already, it's affecting some of this other stuff up here. See how it's cutting that up, and it doesn't look right. That's what these things are doing because of the styles that are in those HTML documents. So we've tried to fix a lot of that. One of the things that you're probably going to see is that there were default styles that were being applied to these documents in the old version that are no longer going to be applied in the new version. And so because of that, you're going to see some differences. And so we'll have to work through those as much as we can. We'll fix those globally. When we can't or it doesn't make sense, we'll have to fix those specifically on your templates. But we have seen some of that occurring, like maybe the font size is too small, or the font size is too large, or maybe the color of the font is not very dark, or something like that. So, but we'll do those as we get to them. So as far as the delivery planner goes, pretty much exactly the same thing right now. You can see it kind of looks different when we go to the delivery planner. It's not really, but then once you get to the printing, it is exactly the same as the old system. And so no real changes there. So let's go back here and look at some of the other ways that we've written. Now, I brought that up with the delivery planner because you saw there that you can add contracts as part of your things that you're printing, packing list as well. Some people are putting data in the packing list that they print out and give to the customer. Some people want to get the contract signed physically when they show up at the event. So that is one way you're communicating with your customers. But if you're just trying to print some contracts or other stuff from the leads page, we make that possible. So let's say we're looking at a weekend here. I think the 2nd is a busy date here in this demo account. So we may say, I just want my reserve statuses, nothing like in a quote or anything like that. And here we go. Here's all of them. And you can see they're all loaded down here. If I scroll to the bottom, all records loaded. That's important if I want to get them all. I click here, and then I click print. And what it's going to do is take us to a print utility that we have. And in this print utility, we allow you to select the different documents that you want to print. Right now, and I think it's persistent. So I think it's whatever you selected last shows up again. That way you don't have to keep, if you do the same prints all the time, you don't have to keep going back and doing it. If you have other packing lists that you use for different things, you can, add those as well. And see, they're added right here and exist right in here for all of your different items. And the scroll bar that we're actually using is this one over here, even though there is like a scroll bar here as well. We're loading this all on an iframe. So when you do print, you do need to use this button here, or it probably will not print out properly. Do not use your browser print button. I don't think that's going to work. Maybe it will. That one actually looks pretty decent. No, it's only going to print one page. See that? So that's the problem with that. Browser print button doesn't work. We do some special stuff when you use this to print your stuff. So you got to use this print button. If you don't want page breaks, we're doing a page break between each thing. If you have page breaks in your template, it looks like this template might have a page break potentially. That will probably print out a blank page there or an additional page as well if you have page breaks. But we do break around each individual document by default. And again, the way we're loading these is such that they don't have CSS that bleeds across to our site here, and hopefully not across to each other as well. We're trying to prevent that. You may notice some differences, and we can handle those as they come up. So, but that's our print utility. You can see up here in this link, we actually have all the different leads IDs that we're printing listed up in the link there. And so that is something you could send to someone else if you wanted someone else to print all these things potentially. So anyway, that's the print utility. I think there's a lot more that we're going to be able to do with that and improve on that. So I'm looking forward to getting into that a little more. One of the other ways that you can print, so that's kind of, that what we just covered there is kind of similar to that drop-down reports that we used to have in the old version on the leads page. On the old site where you were on the leads page and you could go down here and you could say, choose a template from here and then view, and that would bring those up. That's kind of the transition from the old to new. Just like on the old site where you could click on a lead and then print things, we can do that here too. And we see down here, and I think I forgot to cover this when I covered the footer, but we, on certain pages, will have links down here in this lower left of the footer, which enables you to see and print documents that may be related to this item. It doesn't happen very often. Leads and I believe organizations are the only two right now that we have stuff down there for. But when you click it, it's just going to load that, and you can print an individual thing. This was actually going to load the contract page. And then you could print from there, and it'll just print the contract. So, so that's how it works for the footer in organizations. And I guess I'll just show this to you real quick since we happen to have some test ones in here. In this case, we have an invoice. It's actually really a customer statement. It's more of a customer statement. So if we click that, here we see I guess it's becoming more of a customer statement. We see that where it collects these different leads on the same document, and then it shows information on payment terms and so forth. So, and there's a lot more you can do with the organizations page that if you're very interested in this, you should definitely watch some of our YouTube videos that cover it. So, and then the last thing as far as printing goes, it's possible that you may want to do like a bit of a spreadsheet view. So if you have a customer and you might want to look up a customer that's maybe a repeat customer. I'm just going to try to pick one here. Nope. Well, let's see. If I can find one that has a few leads in here. No. Smith, that'd be a good one maybe. Oh, I'm searching rental names. That's my problem. Okay, so here's an example. Let's say they were all the same person. And it may be that you would then, pick a balance due report or something and click on the print icon. And then you can actually print this little report showing them you know, what they've paid on each thing. Like I said, our invoice stuff, our customer statement stuff in organizations kind of is going to take over a lot of that, but this is an option as well. So that is something you could print to communicate that information with your customer. So primarily, the one big way you're going to communicate with customers is through emailing. And so the email bar is right up here, and we've made that possible to be available anywhere. If you're working on settings or whatever you're doing, it's going to be available. We have recently made it so that we have a reset button on here. The reason for that is because if we were in the middle of an email, it was such that, as you know, we were doing some work here in an email, if someone called in and we switched the phone bar, when we came back, it was gone. So we had to switch that around because we needed both of those to be able to be available. So we don't do that anymore. It's persistent, so I can close the email bar. When I open it back up, it's still there. If I don't want to have that in there, once I send it, it goes away. But if I don't want to have it in there, I can click reset to clear it all out. You'll also notice that you know, when I clicked on a lead, it filled in this customer's email address. So that's something that we will do. When we close the lead, it closes it, and I can click on another one, and it's going to fill it in. Well, this one doesn't have an email address, evidently, but that's how that works. So let me see. This one has one too. Yep, there we go. So there's another email address that filled in. Again, when we're dealing with our templates here, don't be afraid to use this little maximize thing here. It's going to enable you to look at this in an easier view, and then you can shrink it back when you're done and click send. There's no time lost by clicking that, and it just makes it easier in the case of where you might have a large email template. Let's see if I can maybe find a larger one. So here's a bigger one. If you're trying to scroll through and work with it, just click here, and you can do whatever you need to do and see the whole thing at once, probably. So, so this is how you would be emailing from a lead. One other way is if you're looking here at your customer, you can always click this email button down here, and it's going to bring it up. So that's, you know, if you're down here in this area and you want to do that, you can do that. There's other places on the lead that we can click to email. So if we were working with a contract and we want to email out a contract, if we have a snapshot or something that's been a signed contract, we have an email button down here that you could send with. Otherwise, if you just want to send a contract to your lead, and you know most of you are going to be set like this, you don't need to come down here to do it. We're on the lead already. You just click here and you look for your contract email, and it's going to pick whatever your active one is. Okay, if you're trying to send a specific one, you can always click this email button and say, I want to send just that specifically. So that those are the two different options when it comes to contracts. Vendors, for those of you using our vendor system, that looks a little different as well. Let me see if I can find, I had made a lead in here that had a vendor item on it. So let's see if I can find that, or if I just need to make a new one. Yeah, I'm just going to make a new one here. So
there is a filter for vendors in the preset filters.
Oh, that's a great idea. So you're saying in here I have a filter? Vendor declined. Oh, contains vendor items right there. Okay, so here it is. There's the one I was looking for. Gee, I don't even know what this software does. So we can see down here I have a vendor item on here. I may want to email that vendor and say, hey, I want to email them a request. Like, is this available? Now, you can't select your vendor template from here, okay? It's not possible because it's potential that you would have multiple items on here with different vendors. So you need to actually specifically pick the item and then email out because that tells us what vendor you're selling to and what items to list in this email, okay? And of course, you know that they can reply to this by clicking the button. It takes them to a page, allows them to put in availability and cost information and any notes that they want to send back to you as well, I believe. So the other area here, as far as emailing a PO, this is going to change to just be emailing a PO. Right now, the link sends you to the PO section. On the next update, that's going to be different. Right now, it sends you down here. You'd have to pick the vendor, and there isn't even really a way to email it. So that's what we're fixing on the next release. But like I said, instead of sending you down here, you can always click the PO section. We're going to keep you up here, make it easier, and just give you this as the email link. So when you want to send that out, you would click that link. We know then what vendor you want to send out to. So that's how it works with vendors. Let's have a look at our auto email section of the lead. So that's another way. So those are all manual emails that we're doing using the email bar up here. But there are cases where, we're sending a lot of automatic emails for you guys. And so there are times when you're on a lead and you don't want a certain auto email to go out to somebody. You can come down here and you can pick that auto email and you can say, I don't want them getting the deposit reminder because for whatever reason. So I pick it, I say, prevent that from being sent. And then you can also pick the other one and say, I don't want to send that one either. It's also possible that you can pick ones that have been sent and say allow resend. This one hasn't been sent. This one evidently has been, so I could allow resend on that if I wanted. And so those are, this was on the old version, but it works a little different. Instead of listing them all there, we list them in this search box here, and then you can pick them and note them however you want, instead of showing them all and taking up a bunch of space. So that's why we do that a little differently. And then we talked a little bit about this on a session earlier, but I want to show it again because I think it's people are always asking about sending attachments. So if you're going to send an attachment, the first thing I would do is add that attachment to this lead, and then click on your email bar, and you would right click on this. And I don't know if you can see my menu, the Firefox is up, my browser is opening up, but I would say copy image. I'm selecting that from the menu, and then I'm going to paste it in my email. And then I'm also going to right click on this again, and I'm going to say copy the link location. So it's the location on the server to that image. And then I'm going to click up here, and I'm going to say I want to make this image a link, and I'm going to put in the URL. And I'm going to say insert. And now when I send that, they're going to get this email that has this little thumbnail, and it also has a link to the actual document, okay, or image. If for some reason it's a document and we don't have a thumbnail for it, like maybe a PDF or something like that, you might not paste in an image like this. You might just have text that you're typing on, and then you select that text and make it a link. But anyway, this is what it's going to open up. So you can see it opens up that. So when they get the email, if they click on that, they're then going to see the thing. They can download it, especially if it's a PDF. It's going to open up really nice, and they'll be able to click to download it from their browser. So that's one way that you can send attachments. I know you guys have been asking for a little button up here that allows you to attach a file to it. Hopefully we can add that at some point to make that process a little easier, but we haven't got it there yet. So it's on our list of things to do. So I think part of the issue with sending those attachments, it's easier for us to do it manually, for us to automatically allow you to attach a thing like a contract and stuff like that. That's a little harder. If you're going to pick something on your computer and then attach it, we might be able to do that for you a little easier, a little quicker. Next thing I want to go over is a new thing that we allow you to do, which is more of like a mass email sort of thing. So, excuse me. What you can do if you want to send an email to a lot of different people is, you would want to probably pick a range, some sort of filter. So if I'm going to send out to my weekends work here, I might set up a filter and then say, okay, I'm going to click all those. Now, again, you need to make sure you've scrolled down, that all your records are loaded, because when you click that, it's only going to do the ones that are loaded. And then you're going to click this drop down and you're going to say email. I have 14 of them selected here. It shows you how many are selected. That's how many we're emailing to. We obviously can't put we're not going to put the email address in here because we're going to send one for each. So it's not going to have everyone's email address in and it goes to everybody. It's going to be one for each item. And then when we pick the template, you'll also notice that now it's not filled in. There's just variables in here, and that's intentional because we have to fill those in for each one of these leads when we send it. One of the other things that you need to know is this: if we're doing over 10, I think it's 10 is the limit. We put it in as like a job for our server to do later, so it's not going to happen immediately. We will later process that when our email job runs. Okay, so that's just so you know. If it's less than 10, we'll do it immediately, and the reason why is because if we were to do it immediately, it could take a lot of time before this finishes and you're able to use the system again, right? So we want to save that job and then process it later, kind of in the background. So less than 10, it's pretty quick. So we'll just do them on the fly, but otherwise we're going to process it later. So you can do mass emailing to customers from the customer area and the worker area, I believe, as well. So those are available to you in those other areas. When we're talking about emailing, it wouldn't be complete without talking about the email center. All of these templates are coming from the email center right here. Every one of these is built in the email center. And so let's go over to the email center and just take a look at that and talk a little bit about the email center. So this is the email center. It shouldn't be that foreign to you as far as what the other one looked like. Same sort of things where we have different types here. Let me refresh that. So we have different categories. We have worker, vendor, customer types of emails. We also have different types here of and I'm getting a little feedback here. So give me a second. Okay, there we go. We have other things like automatic versus manual versus newsletter. Text message actually has been removed from this, and that will be coming off this menu item on the next release. And we can look at active and inactive. So those are quick filters so we can find what we're looking for. So let's take a look at, let's look first at an automatic email. It's going to be very similar to what you're used to. Really no big changes here. We do have this option of loading in our default. I think that might be the one change that's here, that if you make a mistake or you want to restart, or we've released a new default template that you like better and you want to start with, you can click that and load that in. I do want to point out as well that we have additional help things here. Like I said, most of the time we're moving it over like this. There's a few instances where that hasn't moved over yet, but we're going to be trying to move them all into that. This revision tool here is really good. If you're working through some templates and you make a mistake and it's a big deal and we're not open, or you need to get it changed immediately, you can come in here and pick back to where it was working. I don't recall how many we save in here, but we saved quite a few revisions, and you can immediately go backward. If I go in here and click, it's going to give me a warning. It's going to say you're going to lose all your current changes. That's only if you save. So I can say, okay, I'm viewing now that older template. If I don't save this, then, well, I guess I do lose my current changes because I can't go back to where I was. But I still haven't saved this. So I can close. And if I made a change, I won't keep those, but I'm not saving over what I had originally set up. So I think that's something to note. Let's take a look at the newsletter type. Newsletter type is, again, not that different from what you're used to using. I would say one of the other big differences with our email center now is some of the restriction options that we offer here. We can send to or not send to certain filtered lists. These can be customer or leads filters, I believe. and you can pick those and add them and say I only want to send to the people in that filter, and so forth. And that filter is clickable, so if I want to take a look at it, I can click it, take a look at that filter, and see what it's actually doing, so I know who I'm sending to. Filters have a link down here, so you can click and see what leads are being caught by the filter. That's important stuff to know, how it's going to act and who it's going to send to. So you can't undo an email, you cannot withdraw an email. So it's good to make sure that that stuff is set up the way you want it to.
Hey, one thing to note about the restrictions for filters there is they are, I don't know the right word to use, maybe cumulative. There's an and between all this. If you add multiple filters, it's not going to filter out necessarily. It's going to send to every filter that you have on there. So if you say send to, and then you have a filter for the next week set up, and then you have another filter that's set up for just things in the status confirmed, it's not going to send only to people in the next week and only people that are confirmed. It's going to send to everyone in the next week and everyone that's confirmed. It's come up
It is correct.
a little bit.
Yes, they are cumulative. Now you can say don't send to. So what it basically does is these filters finds all the people that match. They put all their email addresses in a bin, and then anything that says don't send to subtracts the email address from that bin, and then it'll send it out. It'll only send one. So if you have a filter that picks up the same person twice, like two different filters picked up the same person twice, it's not going to send them two emails. So yeah, that's how that works. The next thing I think I want to cover here is automations. That's kind of the last part of email sending that I could think of when I was preparing for this. I don't know how many of you have messed with automations. I know some of our heavy users have done it quite a bit. Automations are a really cool tool that we've added to this new version. And it basically allows you to automate tasks that you would normally have to do manually. So great, because it gives you more couch time. So same sort of system here where you have a filter, you say include or exclude anything in these filters. So you can help it identify, and we try to show you here the items that it's identifying so that you have a feel for what it's going to operate on. And then you can pick an action of what you want it to do. And we're going to talk about the email one in this case. So you would choose email and you would pick a template. Now, what this enables you to do is basically make a manual email template and turn it into an automatic email. We only offer so many automatic emails, and they're special, and they do, things that they're designed to do, but they may not do everything that you want to do. So, you could set up, I guess when you pick the email, it loads it so you can see it. So I just closed it. I didn't want to modify it. So that was the template. And I'm going to most likely all the time send it to the customer email. So that's how you would set it up. So any filter you would want, you would add, and then you would set up the email that you want to go out. Now, with automations, you can obviously do more tasks as part of that automation or as part of a different automation. When you save an automation, we do not make it active. Even if you check this as active, well, I'm not even sure if you're allowed to check this as active right now, but we don't make it active yet because we want to take a look at it before it actually goes into practice, because we don't want you to accidentally do something you don't mean to do, something that's going to be not good for you. So we take a quick look at it as a courtesy to you to make sure that you're not doing something you didn't mean to do, and we'll communicate with you on that and then enable it. So that's how that works with automations. But there's a lot you can do with automations. So you ought to consider. I guess you can make it active. It just won't send. So you can make it active. It's just not going to send until we've reviewed it. We get an email in our support box to then go ahead and review that. And then we do that as soon as we can. So we're hoping to eventually take that step out of the process. We just need to make sure that you all understand how to do it before we take that step out and you do something you don't mean to do, and then we get in trouble for it. So that's kind of how that works. Next topic is texting. I had mentioned before that we used to do some texting, and it was like a email to text is the way it worked. So we would actually send it as an email. The carrier, Verizon, AT&T, whoever, would convert it to a text message and then send it to their customer. Well, they don't like doing that anymore, and they basically have made it very hard to get those delivered. And so we've dropped that. The good news for us is that we've built a phone product, and we were doing that before it got difficult to deliver text messages. We were working on that, and so it kind of worked out in our favor. We are the only place you can go to that can do two-way texts, text from you, your company number, to the customer, from the customer back to your company number, and actually see that text thread. We're the only place that does that, that you can do that with in our industry, and probably there's not many people doing it even in other industries as well. So this is a pretty great thing that you guys get access to. There are other services out there that you can text to and from different numbers, but having it built into your software makes it way more convenient. And it's also using your company number, so the customer's not confused by that. Let's take a look at how that works. So in the iPhone bar, we have an option to text. So all we do is choose that, put in the number, or if we're on a customer, we can click and fill the number in, or it'll fill in for us because we're looking at that customer. We pick our text template, and or we just send a message, whatever. We don't have to pick a template. We can make our message as we type here. As you type, it's going to enlarge for you, so you don't have to worry about not being able to see everything. If you're a very long-winded texter and you need more than one line here, it'll start to open up for you. I do want to show you where the text message templates are, and it's really easy to get there just by, you can click up here and go to the iPhone, or you can go to this settings thing on this drop down. And here are the new text message templates areas. We have a couple of our automatic ones that are showing in here because we did have to move those over from the email center. Those look a little bit different, where they have a parameter on them telling us about when they need to send out. If you're someone who was using these, you should go into these and clean them up. We had originally stripped out the HTML information from those as we sent them, but that is very difficult to do. And what was happening is we were getting a lot of weird characters in there, and you're getting charged for more text messages than you meant to send. So a text message is, I think, 160 characters. That would be a segment. And this is what you're built on, segments. And so we do show you how many segments you've typed worth in here. So you can shorten it to get it down to one if you're real close to the edge. But yeah, I would definitely go in and update your templates to make sure that you're not sending a bunch of HTML stuff over, okay?
It's important probably to say that the template variables are going to get replaced with whatever data that is. So if the template variable says like shift start time, and or it's maybe the template variable says event notes, and that's going to get replaced with the event notes, and the event notes are 400 characters long, then that 400 characters will get sent as the text message, and it will increase the number of segments that ends up being.
Yes, excellent point, Cody. These obviously we wouldn't want to remove because this is information we want put into it, and it can go either way, right? Like a time is going to be shorter than what that is, and a notes thing might be a lot longer, so that's going to increase or decrease the segments. A lot of times you're going to be building these as manual. We don't actually allow you to add an automatic one, so you're going to be just making just a new message, and this is something that you're gonna use for anything that you say a lot. You would want to do something like that, make it active, and now that would be available to you in the template center. I don't know if it will be available yet without a refresh because I just made it, but that's then available to you. So you can pull that, and you can put variables in it as well. I believe, so that it'll pick up those variables. I'm not doing something right here. There it is. I just didn't type enough characters. It must be a limit of 3 before it searches. So anyway, it's easy then to pull that and send it to the customer at any time. The other nice thing about this is just like we talked about with automations on email, you can do automations with your text as well. So this, and I don't know if many of you caught one of our webinar recently that Lee did with a lot of text information about texting, but we talked about a couple different ways that you could actually generate some really good revenue by doing texting. And so that's basically how you would set that up. You'd want to set up your filter. So there were a couple of different things that we had come up with where you could actually send a message out to upcoming events, like within 2 or 3 weeks of the event occurring, saying, hey, I just wanted to check in. I know your event's coming up soon. We have some extra things in our warehouse that are available that we thought you might be interested in, and we're offering them for 25% off or something, or 50% off or whatever. And then when they contact you, you could then look at what you have available and make them an offer on some different things. It would be a really good way to kind of upsell an event that's already going out, and you may have room in the truck, and this equipment is just sitting there, and it's not likely to get rented. So, it's a really good way that you could do that. The other thing that we've, as reading through some of the different statistics on texting and emails, texting, I think it's like 295% better response rate than emails right now. So it's a lot better way to do it. So it's the future of communicating with your customer. So if you're not doing texting yet, you really need to think about it. The other thing that we had looked at was setting up a way, if you're using our stuff, our inflatable office code on your website that will track your visitors and match them with people in the database. One of the things you can do as well is say, hey, if someone has visited in the last day and they haven't made any future leads, send them a message that says something like, hey, I was just thinking about you and wondered if you needed anything for any upcoming events. And they don't really know that they were looking at your site, and that's really why you're sending it. But what it does is just helps you get that conversation started so that you don't lose them. So there's a couple little tidbits of how you could really take and use that to generate a lot more income, and make sure that you're booking things faster and not letting someone go and look at some other websites and decide to go with someone else. So I think that's a pretty good way to improve your bottom line. But let's take a look at some of the other texting stuff here. We have a text log that will show you all the texts coming in. Now this is a log, so if you have a text coming in from a number multiple times, it's going to show it each time in the log. But we do also group it, so we'll show you the whole thread here, but it will show in multiple spots in the log potentially, because it's a log. And we've got some requests to display this a little differently, more like a phone. Like I said, we do that up here, but yeah, we have some plans to separate the log from another view that you might be more used to. So when you're looking at this, you can easily create a new lead or reply. Right here, you click reply, it fills in information here, about the number that you might want to send to. Easy stuff to do. You can also see the number of segments down here that ended up being sent. So if you're using a template that had a lot of text that got pulled into it, you would see that number of segments. When you're communicating with a customer, you can always go to the text log to see any unread text that might have come in and communicate back. You can also, you can mark as unread. We allow you to mark for spam and not spam as well. And we keep a spam database to try to reduce the charges from spam calls that you're going to have with iophone, because spamming it happens a lot, and we're going to try to do our best to reduce those that effect on you. Not only are you marking spam, but everybody else using iophone is marking spam, and we're using that database to try to protect you. So, but these text messages also come in as emails, so they'll be emailed directly to whatever email you've set up. And right now, they'll show the text of the email. We're making some really big improvements to that. Currently, when you reply to that email, it replies to that customer's email address. And you can click a link to come here and to come to this, to IO and actually send back a text. We're going to switch that a little bit. So we're going to show a threaded view. So we're going to show you like a little more context on the text that came in. We're going to show you a little history there in the email. The other thing that we're going to do is we're going to make it so that when you reply via email, it actually sends to our server. We're going to translate that into a text and then send it on through your iophone to the right person. That way, it's still really easy for you to do. You don't have to click the login to Inflatable Offers or anything. You just reply to the email, type in what you want, and we'll turn it into a text and send it out as a text. So that's the plan right now. The other thing that's coming is with our new app, we're going to make texting a lot easier with the new app, where it'll be more like texting from a normal phone. It just will happen inside of that phone app. It's not, I don't know of any good way that we could forward text to your phone number. The problem is when you replied, I'm not sure that we can get that to work the way you might want it to. The other issue is, as a single person who's operating, that's a real simple thing to do when you have like an office of 5 or 10 people. Do you send the text to all 5 or 10 people, and then how do you know who replied already? That gets really complicated. So anyway, we're working through a lot of those issues and trying to make that work a lot better for you. So the other thing that you might be doing to communicate with your customers is calling. So why don't we take a look at that? Again, we're going to use iophone to do that. And let's go ahead and go to a lead here. Really, the future of business phones is what iophone is doing. There's a lot of places that were doing this before us, the places like RingCentral and so forth. The advantage that we have is that we're built into your database. So we're able to do things that they aren't able to do. But office phones, landline phones are going the way of the dinosaur. And if you like your landline phone, you can still use it with iophone. You just have to have a secondary service because we need to be able to forward to it. If you're happy going with the way things are moving in the future, where you're just a person with a phone device in your pocket and all your calls come in through there, that's what iophone does. It allows you to manage multiple numbers, multiple businesses with one phone, basically. And you know who's calling in, and you're able to answer it and then decide if you want to truly answer the call or not. Because when you answer an iophone call, it asks you if you want to answer. It'll tell you who's calling and ask you who wants to answer. So, or if you want to answer. So, but in the phone bar here, you can see, and I'm logged in as an administrator, so I don't see the phone bar is a little lighter right now. If I was logged in as a worker, I would see a lot more information. But let me go ahead and I set this up ahead of time to try to show you how the phone bar would change here. So let's see if I can get it to work. I want to call this number. So I'm going to go ahead and do a call here just to show you how it works. This is like kind of the click the call thing. You click here, it throws the number in there. And what's going to happen is it's going to ring my phone right now. And I'm going to answer my phone. So you can't see this part, behind the scenes part. So I'm going to go ahead and answer my phone. And you can see I've got the time going right here. And I went ahead and answered that number on the other end. You probably could have heard all that ringing. And so now I have a connected call, okay? And it's tracking the time as we speak to this person. This is clickable. Let's see, what does this do? Well, I'm not sure what it does. I thought maybe it would take me somewhere it didn't. at any point, so we see our history down here. And if I was logged in as a worker, this would have shown up ahead of time before. Well, like I said, it was not showing because I was logged in as admin at that time. I can click to view any leads for that person. So if I were to click that, it's going to open up all of their leads. I don't lose my place in what I was doing over here. It opens it in a new tab. I can obviously open the phone bar and I still see the same sort of thing that I'm seeing over there. We also have a way for me to, so this was looking at the historical one, someone that I called before. It happened to be the same person. We can click to add an event. If I want to view leads for the current one, I would actually click up here. And if I want to transfer, I just click in here and I can transfer the calls to and from different people. So I just wanted to show you that a little bit real quick about IOphone. When I do a transfer, it's going to ask me some questions on how I want to transfer. If I want to force dial, even if they're unavailable, I want to make sure it rings them, even if their call rules say not to. I could do an immediate transfer where it just sets that, it just connects those calls. A return transfer where if the person's not available that I'm trying to transfer to, it rings me again. And I can do a warm transfer where it actually connects me to Jim. And I say, hey, Jim, I got this call from Beth. You want to take it? And, he can say yes or no. And then I can, complete that. I'm going to cancel in this case, but that's kind of how that works with IOphone. So I just wanted to show that to you. We're going to continue to make that phone product better, and because communicating with your customer through phone is always going to be a big deal. And one of the things that you can do with IOphone is set up all sorts of ring schedules so that if it's off hours, you make sure that phone call gets answered by someone. You can set up different voicemails. You can set up phone trees so they can kind of go through and say, if you're looking for hours, press 1. If you're looking for this, press 2. You can do all that stuff with IOphone so that you can communicate well with your customer. We also take any voicemail and transcribe it, and we'll email that to you, as well as we'll email you missed calls, so you are aware of all those things. So there's a lot that you can do with IOphone to improve your business and improve the way you're speaking with your customers. And a lot of stuff that's new, only in the new UI here. So the last thing that I want to cover, and we're getting close to our time constraints, is the CRM. I just want to look at that for a minute because when we're talking about communicating with our customer, the CRM is really where it's all at. So if we go down to the CRM here, it's going to show us in chronological order. Now, of course, this is a demo account, so we have some weird stuff showing up here because that should be at the bottom. We're going to see all of the communication that we've had with the customer. CRM is Customer Relationship Manager. And some could say that, our entire product is a CRM, but we actually differentiate and have this module that adds a bunch of different pieces and parts that allow you to really work on that customer relationship. And so we've mentioned before that you can filter on the CRM so you can find what you're looking for. And you can add a note after a call, a journal. And so you can say, what you talked about, or, what was decided based on that call or whatever. So just say you have notes for yourself. If there was a voicemail, you would actually see the transcription. If there was a text coming through here, you would actually see the text message in here as well. So we're logging all of those. And what that also enables us to do, not only can you find what's been going on, like if one of you guys calls us or emails us and says, hey, you guys didn't come through like you said you would, what we do is we look at our CRM, same thing that you're using. We look and see, well, what was the breakdown, or was there a breakdown? And we determine that, and then we get back to you based on that. So super useful. But the other cool thing is we're tracking these two parameters right here. And these things are big deals. They don't look that important, do they? But they are. The last contact attempt, that's the last time that we tried to contact a customer. So in this case, which should have been in my call that I just had with the customer right here, the last time I tried to contact them, we just did. And then the last time the customer interacted with me right here. So they answered the call, right? Which this one looks a little out of date because that should have shown the same time basically. But this one's actually showing an earlier one. I'd have to look and see why that is. Possibly just because I need to refresh the screen, but those two parameters are very useful. What that enables you to do is to say, hey, if the customer has not, connected with me, if they got a lead within the last 10 days and they haven't, connected with me since then, I want to send an automated email, I want to do an automated text or whatever. Or maybe I just want to filter that list so that I can see who those people are and I can kind of work through that list and make decisions and contact them or not, or move their lead to an inactive status or something like that. It also will tell you, like I said, last time you tried to connect with them. So you might want to do a filter on that and say, well, if we haven't connected with them within the last year, we want to make sure we connect with them and send them something. So very useful for filtering, for building lists, or for setting up automated emails or text messages. So those are all the different ways that you're going to be communicating in the new Office Upgrade. I think there's been a lot of real improvements when it comes to this sort of thing. So I'm going to go ahead and pause for a minute and let you guys go ahead and ask questions.